Hey, what's shaking? It's Alex Greenwood, host of PR After Hours here on Anchor FM. I've been podcasting off and on since 2006, and I've got to tell you something. Back in the old days when it was all stone knives and bear skins and a string and Dixie cups, podcasting was a real challenge. Fast forward to today, and it's still got a lot of challenges, especially for folks who don't have time to set up a home studio or go to a studio or things like that. So I found Anchor FM and I love it, love it, love it for how easy it is to create my own podcast here on this channel called PR After Hours. I love how you can put everything together so simply right from your desktop or your phone. And there's so many great creation tools that allow you to record and edit your pod right there. And I just can't recommend that part alone enough. Also, though, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from this too with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started. That's the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And we'll see you back at PR After Hours. Welcome back to PR After Hours. I'm your host, Alex Greenwood, bringing you your weekly cocktail of PR and marketing tips that will help you and your business. So I think you could safely call me a gym rat. Particularly in the past 5 years or so, I have been hyper careful about managing my weight, staying in shape, and staying healthy. I do a lot of hiking, and I like to go to a kickboxing gym, which I've done for almost 4 years now. I like that kickboxing workout because it gives me a high-intensity interval training workout, which is really beneficial for cardiovascular and endurance and stamina and all those things. And it's just a good thing for a guy my age to do, kind of help, fight off the bone loss and all that kind of stuff. But I go to that gym, and I go to another gym, also more of your typical box gym kind of thing. And yeah, I'm going to say it. Here we are, coronavirus time, and it's only getting worse. It's just, as of this recording, been named a global pandemic. Okay, scary words, yes. I don't want people to panic, but I also don't want people to blow it off. And anybody who tells you this is not serious is misinformed at best or mendacious at worst. So that understanding away, let's talk a little bit about communication. I wanted to bring up gym example because I have had different communications from different gyms. And one of the communications I received was actually not a communication. I have one gym that I love, but I have not heard anything from them telling us what they are doing to manage keeping the gym clean as possible. They have not done anything, as far as I can see, to conduct question and answer with members. They've not done anything, in my opinion, to help educate gym members to make sure that they sanitize their hands, to make full use of the antivirus wipes that are available at the club, and the sprays and the hand gel. I have not heard them ask members to stay home if they're sick. That's concerning to me because I think there can be an assumption on the part of a brand or a small business to just assume, well, people know, or I'm going to annoy them if I keep talking about it. Kind of like I do feel like on this podcast lately, people are thinking, gosh, is this the coronavirus show? But I think that gyms are missing the boat in any kind of service industry. Anything where people can potentially, interact with other people's sweat and other people's fluids, and where germs abound. And, that can be barbershops, that can be pet stores, restaurants, of course. Just think of all the different places where people interact beyond just a transactional way. They literally sweat in there, or a dog will lick them. Or what about a daycare where there's kids everywhere, their little petri dishes that are running around. There's just so many ways that as a small business, even if you don't directly have that same kind of touch, you should probably let your customers know via email, by your website, by your social media, what you are doing to address this, and what you expect them, as members of your gym, for example, what you expect them to do to help make the gym as healthy and safe an environment as possible. I suspect we're getting to a point where a lot of gyms may not necessarily close, but they're going to look like they're closed because people just are not going to show up. I want to direct you to an article. This is kind of what got me going on this besides the gym too. There's an article I'm going to link to in the show notes, and it's actually, I found it on nextdoor.com. And it's called How Your Local Business Can Prepare for Coronavirus. A lot of these tips are just so great. I'll just kind of run through these really quickly with you, but they work with leading small business organizations to compile the following top tips to help you in your prep. Okay, so stay up to date, of course. Make sure you have the most updated information. They talk about the CDC. If you're not going to cdc.gov for your information, that's where you should be going. That is the most trusted source of information in the United States, at least. If you want to go beyond that, you can go to the World Health Organization site as well. I'll try to remember to put links to all those in the show notes as well. Update your business plan. Amend your plan to deal with disruptions to your business operations. I'm not even talking about comms here. I'm not even talking about crisis communication or anything like that at this point. It's just, you got to be prepared, obviously, for a downturn in business and what that means to the services you provide to your regular customers and your prospecting and all of that stuff. It's going to be topsy-turvy like crazy. So there's more information in the article about that. Prepare your employees. This is the other thing. Are your employees up to date on all the protocols on staying clean? Perhaps even identifying people who come into your business. Say you're a gym and somebody's coughing all over the place. Have you empowered your employees to say, hey, if you're not feeling well, could you please go ahead and go home till you feel better? This is not a time to be super polite, in my opinion. We need to be direct with people who are living in denial about this. Even if all they have is a cold, we just don't know the difference. You need to be direct with people, tell them, and I just think it's actually the height of selfishness that if you have a cough and you still go to the gym or you still go out in public at this point, it's just too risky. You don't know exactly what you might have. So you got to empower your employees to maybe talk to people who do look like they're having a problem and ask them to maybe stay home until they feel better. You got to do it the right way. Of course, you do risk, pissing somebody off, but, and we're in a pandemic here. People are just going to have to deal with this, I think. Share your plan with customers. Alleviate concerns about what you're doing. Like I talked about earlier, display a sign at your location, on your marketing channels, your email, your website, everywhere. A lot of gyms have private Facebook groups even for the smaller gyms. Go there and make sure everybody understands. Print up a chart or get a CDC chart on washing your hands, on what you're supposed to do, all those things. Get to know your neighbors and your fellow businesses. This is great. A localized community response can be critical, so talk with your neighbors and local customers, particularly the elderly and those with underlying medical conditions, about neighborhood emergency planning. And you share your plan with other local businesses in your communities, especially those in your supply chain. That's a great idea. And identify help in your community. Local authorities have a pulse on neighborhood conditions and will be able to respond quickest in time of need. So that's our health department. In this case, there's so many local organizations, but we're all stronger together. This is going to be not fun for the next few weeks or maybe months. Things are probably going to get a lot worse before they get better, but we can mitigate the damage by doing the things the CDC recommends, by checking yourself before you wreck yourself to make sure that you're not showing up somewhere when you don't feel well. And also just simple stuff. Wash your hands. I know everybody's tired of hearing it, but you can't hear it enough right now. Think about communicating. Remember, when people don't have information, they often fill the void with disinformation or misinformation, and you don't want that. So tip for businesses, get out there. Do your best to let your employees and your customers know what you're doing and what you expect of them. Looks like that's last call for the happy hour here in the virtual lounge. I hope this cocktail of tips, news, advice, etc. was useful to you. Of course, if you need more information, be sure to visit us online at prafterhours.com. You can always follow us on Twitter. We're at OursPR. And don't forget, if you have a question for me, I want to hear it. I'd love to play the message on the show and answer it for you. All the instructions are in the show notes. It doesn't cost you a thing, and it's kind of fun. So please think about doing that. I'd love to hear your voice and try to answer your questions about PR, marketing, management, productivity, etc. Hey, I can even give you my favorite cocktail recipe. Don't forget also, you can support the frequency and value of this show. Please consider being a sponsor. Just check the show notes for information on that. And if I may, I'll rattle the virtual tip jar for you and just say that even if you can't sponsor the show, but you want to keep it going and encourage me, please feel free to throw in a few bucks. It's not a big deal at all. Just again, check the show notes. Okay, I got to wipe down this bar and get things cleaned up. I've got dishes to wash, glasses to clean, fruit to cut up, PR news to read up on, the usual. Join me again soon for PR After Hours, your virtual PR cocktail lounge.